Hi, welcome to High Road to You. This is Mark Stofer, and I want to share with you something that is so critically important, specifically today, more so than ever before. With AI coming out and things becoming more and more competitive and disruptive in many different industries, sectors, if you will, it is very challenging to find good business. And I want to share with you an example that we went through back in the late 90s, and that was through procurement, through the Industry Council for Small Business Development. My wife and I worked together. I gave her 51% ownership. That made us a disadvantaged business, and that was very popular, during that time. And there was a great movie that came out, War Dogs, a great comedy, but it resonated with me to a certain level because, they underbid by like $3 million, and they had to cross the triangle of death to deliver the product, and basically risked their lives, not realizing that they had given away the boat, basically. And I remember speaking with the Industry Council for Small Business Development president at the time, because I became a speaker. I was good at procurement. I was good at analyzing contracts and becoming a marketing consultant, helping companies lower workman comp claims from double digit to single digit, introducing a new product or service to market, creating employee morale programs. I was importing containers of merchandise, and it was very exciting. But for the most part, my competitors and other vendors within this Industry Council for Small Business Development were going out of business, trying to procure and trying to service the contracts that they might have been awarded. And similar to War Dog's experience, underbidding and not knowing the numbers well enough. And I remember that was very disheartening for me, because I became a speaker at the International for Small Business Development convention every year in Santa Clara, California. And I started to share that, to the room of would-be entrepreneurs wanting to get in on these government contracts and working with prime contractors, that they had to really diligently speak with the buyer of their product or service or their commodity and understand the potential first and foremost before they spend all of this time, going through the financial paperwork and confirming that they have the capability to service these contracts. And they could get quite large, so it was very enticing. But seeing many companies, go out of business because they didn't, read the fine print, I guess you could say, or they just didn't know their numbers well enough. I went to the president of the Industry Council for Small Business Development, and I said, this organization is to support business. Maybe they should take the medium, the middle bid, and not the low bid, and, not necessarily the high bid, but ultimately, that they would know internally what was sustainable and what was not. And she came back and said, the problem isn't within our members and our association and doing good business. The problem is within your association or their associations teaching their members how to do good business. And I thought that was an amazing reply, truly. I did continue speaking. I lasted another year because I was sharing with a room of 100, 300 people what I understood about this situation, and that, they needed to really understand the cost of doing business. And when I started bidding on projects, knowing that there was a lot of front-end work that was happening, and I kind of distanced myself from those buyers and those companies that operated in that realm, I wasn't going to compete with that kind of, market. And so, or that kind of clientele that they were working with. And so ultimately, I remember one of the buyers calling me saying, "Mark, you're way out of the park." I mean, I didn't spend any time on it at all. I just threw a number out there because they said, at that time it was faxed broadcasted to several vendors, and I would look at the contract proposal, and I would write up just a very big number and send it back. And he says, "You're not even ballpark." And I said, "I know. I don't care to be on the preferred vendors list anymore, and I don't want to spend my time bidding on any more of your potential contracts." And he says, "For every vendor that figures that out, there's 100 pounding the door down to take your place." And I said, "I can imagine." And that's kind of where we're at now with what is good business? What is sustainable? And I think how it affects somebody's life to go under, and just their boat sink out in deep water, and to commit so much to, having all of the things that you would need, maybe even have payroll and, just enough to pay yourself, if you will. It's very disheartening. So I think it's critically important that when you go into any business relationship, that the margins are there. And if you can find that out as quick as possible and not waste any time hoping that you're going to get an updated PO for extra, services. And remember, there's really only three things involved in everything you're going to do. It's time cost, material cost, and labor cost. And the only other cost that I would add to that is frustration costs. And that is one of the biggest costs, in my opinion. So you want to have good relationships. And if you can't, I'd highly recommend that you probably avoid it altogether. So with that, I hope this reaches your heart and mind and resonates with you, and hopefully helps you prevent a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering when doing business with anybody. With that, I wish you well.
Hi, thank you for watching this content, and most importantly, for being inspired and encouraged to take action. Nothing happens without action. I would highly recommend that you meditate every day as you walk, as you are being social in your environments, as you're nutritionally healthy, to manifest what will make a difference in your life. Share how you overcame, the dramas and the toxicity of your life, and not just holding yourself accountable, but holding other people accountable. And boundaries are constant, never ending. For every new level, there's a new devil. And you're constantly going to have to put boundaries on yourself and others and be accountable. Be accountable. So I hope that the content inspired you, encouraged you. There's a lot of links, a lot of resources that will help you overcome, build a foundation, and take the actions. Share your comments, share your successes, share those milestones, as small as they might be. And with that, I hope this message finds you well.